over the regular risk-free that I have. So going back to the geometric Brownian function again and the equity function. Now, from from this equation, I can solve for my debt at any time t, right? And my debt, I can discount it to now. The debt in the future, I can discount it to now because that's when I want to do the computation. And now, remember that my equity equation is this from the case of the company. For now, we're doing the case of the company. We'll get the equation of the individual. And where my D1 is this, and my D2 is that. Now, this equation, which is my debt equation, which I've discounted at this point, is the value of the asset minus the equity. But my equity is this, right? So now I'm going to try to solve for that now. And if I solve for it, I'll find out that the regular risk that I'm taking for buying this stock over the risk neutral will be this. So will be that for the company. So at any time t, if I'm taking a risk, this is what I'm going to get. This difference is what I'm going to get if I use this equation to solve for that. And for the case of the company, pretty much the same. Just going to change Vt to Yt, where the case of the company, where D1 also changes. Remember this, from the consumption and the wages and the Y naught, which is the equation, and I have D2 as the relationship of these two. Then recovery rate. We spoke about recovery rate earlier on, and we did a computation on recovery rate, which is kind of like how much I will get back if a company defaults. But that first scenario was just the finance people's way of solving for recovery rate. But this is the math people or the statistic people way of getting it. And this is kind of like using the density function to get it. So this is basically more like the Bayes rule, the Bayes where you do a conditional probability. This is the value of the asset, given that the asset defaults. That's it. And that represents that. And over and over again, we've done this earlier on and that. And it's the same thing pretty much like what we've done from the previous pages that we've done so far. And we'll find out that this recovery rate at risk neutral is given by this. And also, D1 is this and D2 is that. For the case of the company, this V0 just changes to that and everything else is the same.
So this formulas new? I mean, these are original research?
Well, this is from our research. But we've seen this before. Yeah.
So you can
So that's pretty much everything. So conclusion, credit risk. Why credit risk? I want to be able to determine interest rates that I'm going to charge anybody that steps into my door to take a loan or to try to take a mortgage or whatever. 2, I want to know what are the chances that this person will not default. If I know today that I'm selling a car at $20,000, interest and everything put together, and I want the person to pay in the next 5 years, by the 3rd year, I would have made virtually my money back and some extra interest. The remaining 2 years is just something extra. But I want to know how soon will this person default with his present situation. Then the next thing is the probability of default, which is the one that we did from historical data and from bond prices. Then the next thing is we saw how Merton did his work using equity prices. So we don't have to wait for the credit rating companies every 6 months to give us a credit rating to be able to calculate the probability of default. Then we saw Cohn's utility, the HJB function, and the optimal controls. Then we also saw how individual probability is computed, the default intensity for individual, and the risk premium. And finally, well, this is going to help finance company to make a decision every time they need to make a decision now. future studies which we're already thinking about. One of them is that we kept the volatility we kept it constant. What if volatility is stochastic? What if it's changing? Because in real life it changes. We're just keeping everything constant to make the math easy. And then what if the rate, whether risk neutral or the drift, what if they are both stochastic? Another question is the default correlation. There's so much work going on default correlation right now. Default correlation is just one company defaults, will it make the other company default? What's the correlation between them? There's so much work going on that, but there's more that can be done on that. The third one is also very interesting. Most people right now, and what we're doing right now, is probability of default on just a single model. What about if the model is bivariate? What about if the model is multivariate? There's some research because I read and I saw a guy that did a presentation in late 2015 about bivariate. It's in the paper at the end when I was talking about further studies about bivariate, probability of default. Also, what about the changes between default intensities? We've seen the relationship. We know that the default intensity from bond prices is usually higher than historical data. How do we change between them? Can I convert the default intensity from historical data to bond price to Merton's default intensity? What is the relationship between them? Those are academic questions that we can also look at. Then, this is also very important. Of these 5, I think these 2 are really very interesting for me. The first one and the last one. The last one says making debt stochastic. With the example we did, we said, debt is 10 million in the future. But it's never like that because interest rate changes every time. The government switches fiscal policies, they switch interest rate in the next 6 months, they switch again. So that means debt is actually stochastic. What if we do a research based on that and see if debt is, if we don't keep debt constant and we keep it stochastic? And that's about everything that I have to talk about today. Thank you. Question?
Oh, what was the difference between default intensity and the probability of default?
Okay, now, probability of default is kind of like the same thing with default intensity. But the difference is this. The probability of default, there are 2 types. The first one is unconditional. And the second one is conditional. Now, for the unconditional, it's just the probability of default now minus times 0, or the time you want to look at it. But the conditional is conditioned to a no default before that time. And this is what we call default intensity. So that's the difference. So default intensity is actually a probability of default. I don't know if you understand what I explained. There are 2 types of probability of default. One of them is default intensity. But the default intensity is actually the conditional probability of default. While unconditional probability of default is just unconditional probability of default. That's the difference.
Yeah, you talked about assessing credit risk for individuals. How does the research fit into the tools that are currently available, like the credit score, the various credit score awarded by various credit agencies? Are these credit score calculated using similar tools that you know of? I know they're very secret.
Thank you very much. Sincerely, I don't know how they do their computations.
Very secret.
But in the 60s, before Merton, Black and Scholes, before they got into that industry, it was just one big guy who writes something on the paper and tells people, oh, this is the next big thing, and that's it.
Mhm.
And that rumor goes around, and they speculate, and that's how they make money. But when Black and Scholes came in, everything became empirical. And before they started accepting what they were saying, it took 27 years after these two guys died. It took them up to 2007 to give them a Nobel laureate for what they did in 1970.
It's often the case, the Nobel Prize
So-
comes much later.
So based off of that, I want to believe what they're doing right now is qualitative based.
Mhm.
Do you have money? Does your family?
How many haircuts you have?
How many kids do you have? Do you have alimony? Which they're not going to check.
Mm.
You understand? But this is empirical. It's math. If it's true, it's true in general. But I hope I get into a credit rating company so I can help them.
Yeah, but we talked about that. Now think about an individual who wants to get a mortgage. Right? You go to a bank, and all the banks they quote the rates, different rates. But say that you stick to Bank of America.
Right.
Two different people they go there, and they usually if your credit score is good enough, you will get the same rates.
Mm.
Yeah.
4% on a 30 years mortgage today.
Mhm.
That might change tomorrow. They don't make any substantial difference between two people as long as they get some information. We've all gone through this, you know how much money you made, how much debt. We don't think, although how they come up with this, the answer of whether they give you the loan or not on the same rate usually to the two same individuals. But I don't know, we don't know how much detail I don't think they do a lot of quantitative things. This thing, what Kola did in this work, especially the last part for it, the risk premium, right? The risk premium, you can find based on the data that you get, your consumption, how are your wages, what's your portfolio of investments on different type of assets, not risky assets, not risky. All these things can be quantified, put into that formula, and two different people might get two different risk premiums. You might get a better rate, a lower interest rate on the same type of mortgage as Song Min, based on the fact that you might make more money, that your portfolio, that your consumption is lower, that your portfolio of investments is more, it gives you a higher return on all these things. So it's more, in a sense, sophisticated.
It's really cool.
Well, I mean, incorporating this or trying to sell this to a bank or you could possibly using some program all these things. And
car insurance or something?
same thing, yes. I mean, it could apply not only to a house mortgage, but also when you go to ask for any kind of loan, a car loan, a home equity loan, anything.
Also because you apply the same parameters that you apply to a company, for example.
And
That's
then you have
deal.
you have individuals, then you have companies.
But you apply the same parameter, I mean the same logic, basically.
The same logic, well,
question, yeah.
In Kola, what he did is I mean, behind this thing is that these are the Hamilton-Jacobi-Bellman equations, PDEs. You solve to get the optimal parameters, the optimal controls. So it is assumed that the person who is doing those investments is well versed on all these things and is optimizing their investments. No?
Right.
But you can always educate people.
Cool.
Based on my experience from working in a bank in Africa, not from here, because here I don't know.
Not yet.
They just ask you, oh, bring your statement of account, the last 1 year. They ask you, what do you have? What do you own? Okay, I have a car, I have 3 children, I have this, I have that. Then who do you know? Which is, if you mess up, we can go and pick up that